Hi, this is Wendell, and welcome to this chapter's chapter plan. This chapter is about Ethernet switch troubleshooting, and like all these videos that are a chapter plan, I encourage you to focus on certain things or to try some different activities. Everything in the chapter is fair game on the test, but this is just a few hints and tips on where to focus. Now, in your first read through this chapter, which is your first chapter devoted to troubleshooting, it has a little material that tells about question types. I encourage you to check that same information out on Cisco's website as well, particularly the information about SIM questions and SIMLIT questions. While you're thinking about troubleshooting, you should keep in mind that you would attack SIM questions differently than SIMLIT questions, so you want to have that context going into your study of troubleshooting. Now, the rest of the chapter is not about troubleshooting as an into itself, but troubleshooting Ethernet switching. So there's one big new topic brought up in this particular chapter. It's Cisco Discovery Protocol, or CDP. And that's a very useful protocol for discovering what's connected to what in a network. So make sure you understand that. Then the rest of the chapter talks about analyzing Ethernet switching, and it doesn't really introduce anything new. It just addresses the topics from the perspective of something's not working right. And there are two big technical topics here. Layer 2 status. What's the status of your layer 2 interfaces, and the whole Ethernet switch forwarding process. So anytime you think about troubleshooting, you have to ask yourself, what is normal? What's connected to what? If everything's working, what happens? And CDP helps with that. And then analyzing what could cause it to not work. So this last part of the chapter looks at layer 2 status and the forwarding process and asks the question, well, what if it's not working right? How do you know if it's working right? And if it's not working right, what are those root causes that can stop that from happening? As you wrap up your first read of the chapter, you really need to make yourself think about and apply this stuff. Now, there's a couple of ways to do that. First off, if you select the questions for the second part of the book that come with the CD, a lot of those questions are set up to ask you things about how things really work when things are working normally, and also how things work when something's broken. So that's a good place to look. Also, if you've got the Pearson Network Simulator, there are a couple of troubleshooting labs that break things and you have to figure out what's wrong. So I'd encourage you to look through those if you happen to have those that available to yourself. And finally, you need to play with the CDP commands if you've got availability of some gear or Dynamips or a simulator. Make sure you understand those well, and in particular that you understand that there may be multiple interfaces listed in the output, and which field is the local device's interface and which field is the neighboring device's interface. So that's a good activity to do when you're doing your review of the chapter. When you finish the part, you want to come back and review. The trick is that you need to be able to apply these concepts, so I would say it's maybe too soon to go back and repeat some of those questions. I'd defer those maybe until you're done with the book. But then when you finish the whole book and you're reviewing, I would encourage you to take your time through the question bank with the CD. I'd encourage you to take time to think hard about the tougher questions, the ones that make you think about how frames are forwarded in a network, and make sure you've got a solid understanding of how an Ethernet switch in a larger network works with other switches to forward frames.